I ruined the most profound love of my life because I was desperately seeking the validation and feeling of being chosen that I missed in childhood. My pride over his boundaries led to emotional distance, cheating, and divorce. I regret everything now. The final paperwork sat in a neat stack on the worn oak table, signed and dated. A tombstone for a decade of life. I was only married for 5 years, but we'd been us for nearly 10, dating back to high school hallways. The official decree changed little. The loss had already happened. The divorce was just the echo. From the moment I met him, I knew. There was a certainty, a quiet, deep-seated knowing that he was special, that he was my world, and that my life would be forever intertwined with his. Our childhoods were different, both scarred in their own way, giving us a silent understanding of what it meant to fight for something good. He was my shelter. He adored me. The way he looked at me, always, was like I was the single source of light in a dark, complicated world. We weren't just partners, we were best friends. High school was the first glimpse of our divergent paths. He was a social chameleon, effortlessly moving between cliques, welcomed everywhere. I had one small, quiet circle, and even they were fleeting. After graduation, they scattered, and I never missed them. I was a loner, a role I thought I'd accepted. But the truth was, I always wanted to be chosen. I craved to be seen. He moved off to college first, a year ahead of me, with 3 of his closest friends. That first year was tough. The distance strained us, and his terrible roommate situation led to a mental breakdown. The next year, I followed, and we moved in together. It was heaven and hell simultaneously. The heaven was coming home to him every single day. The hell was our neighborhood. It wasn't safe. The break-in started, and my fear mounted. My husband, bless his protective heart, started staying up all night, guarding the apartment so I could sleep. The combination of sleeplessness, challenging classes, and the general weight of carrying all the worry took a tremendous toll. While we found our solace in each other, his external world was dissolving. His closest friends drifted, one into the military, one into trade school across the state, another to a far-off college. We were left with only each other. I thought I had reconciled myself to being a loner, but he hadn't yet. He was watching his lifelong friendships die a slow, painful death, and the isolation was crushing him. Then came COVID-19. The dreadful city, the bad neighborhood, the relentless pressure, we left it all behind. We relocated to an area near his family and switched to online classes. I transferred schools and continued my studies. He stayed with it for 1 more semester, then stopped. He had found a blue-collar job doing something he genuinely loved. He decided the degree wasn't worth the cost to his soul. It was a beautiful, brief period. Since my classes were online, I often got to be with him almost every day at his job. It was simple, real, and I loved every minute of it. It felt like we were building our perfect cocoon. The cocoon didn't last. He moved to a better blue-collar job with longer hours, and our daily togetherness ended. I graduated and stepped into my big girl job. We bought our first vehicles, signed the papers on our first house, and adopted animals. We had the whole life, and I was absolutely, wildly in love with the life we had created. But then, the quiet crept in. My first year of full-time work felt profoundly lonely. I had surprising amounts of time off, and he, the dedicated blue-collar man, worked endlessly. I missed him desperately. I missed the connection that constant proximity had provided. The next year brought my perceived dream job. It demanded more, and I gave it everything. I wanted to be great, not just for the career, but for the recognition. My mother had left me as a child and never returned, so my lifelong ache to be seen and chosen was being fulfilled by this high-profile position in our community. I was finally becoming someone visible. In the process of becoming visible, I started accumulating friends. I hadn't had consistent, long-term friendships since high school. Having colleagues and peers who wanted to hang out, laugh, and include me felt like a validation I had starved for. To fit in, I became the person they wanted. I fed into the drama, the gossip, the petty backbiting. All to be cool or, more accurately, to be seen. While I was building this fragile, external validation, my husband was still working. We had a difficult conversation one evening. He looked tired, worn down by the labor and the slow, agonizing realization of what was happening. He voiced his fear. Our lives were heading in two different directions, and he didn't know if we could ever get them back on track. The conversation that truly broke something inside me came when I asked him to take a weekend off work during his busy season to attend an event out of town with me and my new friends. He said no. When I pushed him for a reason, he said, flatly, that he was looking out for him and putting him first. It was a crushing blow. I later realized he was talking about protecting his sanity, his career, and perhaps the marriage itself by setting a boundary against more stress. But at the time, all I heard was, I don't care about what you want, and I don't care about being with you. That misinterpreted phrase became my permission slip, a false justification for the terrible choices I was about to make. From that day forward, we drifted apart, silently sinking beneath the waves of my manufactured social life and his increasing emotional retreat. One ill-fated weekend, I went out of town with my new friends. I didn't tell him how many people were going, specifically omitting the sheer size of the group. He found out from someone else that a huge crowd, including people he didn't know or trust, would be there. He was hurt, angry, and suspicious. He thought I cheated. I didn't. But my heart was already gone. I took my wedding ring off that night. I walked with my girlfriends, laughing and talking, desperate to feel what it was like to be single, to be free of the responsibilities that felt too heavy to carry. It was a fleeting, toxic feeling of validation. When I got home, things came to a head. He thought the worst, and I, despite my protests of innocence, was too far gone to truly fight for the integrity of our vows. I still loved him, still wanted to save us, but I sat back and tried to fix things passively. It went okay for a while, until I started going to the events again, drawn back to the superficial approval of my coworker friends. In September, we took a day trip. It started beautifully, a brief flash of the old us, but the tension was a physical presence. The conversation inevitably turned to the events, the friends, and the distance. He started beating on the steering wheel, yelling, the sheer desperation and fear in his voice tearing at the quiet peace we once shared. I just felt like I couldn't do anything right, I thought then. Now, I see the truth. He was beating on the steering wheel because he saw our marriage slipping through his fingers, and he was trying desperately to hold on. If you are enjoying this story, please like and subscribe to the channel for more such stories. In October, he gave me the ultimatum. He was done if he had to keep chasing me down like this. I felt angry. I felt like he was being unfair, placing all these impossible boundaries on me, no events, no friends, no messaging them. I thought they were ridiculous because I hadn't cheated that one weekend. So, in my entitled, wounded state, I broke every single one of them. I pushed back, thinking I was reclaiming my freedom. On my birthday, we went to a beautiful, expensive restaurant. It overlooked the city where the dreaded weekend had taken place. Of course, the issue came up. His words, though now lost to the painful fog of memory, were sharp and true. I spent the dinner holding back tears, utterly devastated by the truth of his hurt. He profusely apologized, but the damage was done. We had both been wounded, but I was the one poisoning the relationship with my pride. By the new year, we were ghosts. He was gone to work, and I was alone in the big house we bought together. I was fed up with the silence, the distance, and the weight of my own guilt. I told my friends I was divorcing him, but I never told him. In that hollow space, I made the irreversible mistake. I cheated on him with one of the new friends. He found out. He was gone. I fought with all the strength I had left to keep him, but it was purely guilt driving me. The pain I had caused was too monumental to face. After a couple of months of excruciating limbo, I filed for divorce and officially moved in with the other person. In my heart, the whole time, I knew I had made a catastrophic error. I regretted it instantly, but I kept digging myself deeper. His family knew and hated me. The other guy's family liked me, and I was terrified of facing the long, hard road of mending things with my husband, scared of his family's judgment, scared of the arguments, scared of what if we couldn't move forward. Then, a moment of profound clarity. He sat me down in a public restaurant and spoke honestly. He owned his side of the failure, acknowledging his wrongdoings and shortcomings in the marriage, particularly his emotional withdrawal and the isolation. He was finally working on himself. He pleaded for me to come back, to work through it together. I still remember the look in his eyes. It was the look of the man who saw me as his entire world. I should have said yes. I should have accepted his forgiveness and the genuine effort he was offering. But I was afraid. I was afraid he'd use my cheating against me in a future argument, or that his family would make my life a living hell. I was terrified of starting over in the wreckage I created. I didn't care about any of those fears now. I missed him more than anything. We got divorced, but I couldn't let him go. We stayed in contact, but his one non-negotiable boundary was that I could not keep seeing the other man. I couldn't break away from the new life, the new family structure I had desperately wanted. I wanted the security, the idea of the new life, but I loved him. I tried in the end to drop the other man, but the fear of losing that newly constructed foundation paralyzed me one last time. Eventually, he had to enforce the distance, and I was forced to let go. To this day, it is the sharpest pain I have ever known. I long to move away, to escape the memories that haunt every street corner and every room in our old life. I am haunted every single day by how I treated the man who loved me unconditionally, who provided me with the best life, who traveled the world with me, who shared our silly names and inside jokes. I betrayed our boring, beautiful nightly routine, me cooking dinner, getting takeout, turning on a series, and falling asleep side by side. I should have fought harder. The superficial desire for friends and people to like me completely overrode the deepest, most profound love of my life. I think now how utterly ridiculous that seems. I treated him as less than, and I will never be able to take that back. He hates me, and he has every right to. I just pray he knows how much I love him and how deeply, fundamentally sorry I am. The tears come easily, but beneath them is just a vast emptiness. The light inside of me is gone, replaced by a terrible, cold darkness. I pretend to be okay every day, but I am hollow. I will never not long for that man, for the love we had, for the life I carelessly threw away. Sometimes, it's simply too late. If there is any advice I can offer from this place of crushing regret, please, fight for what you have before it is gone forever. Water the grass where you are, and it won't look greener on the other side. Don't hurt the people you love, because they won't stick around forever, and they shouldn't have to. They deserve so much more than what I gave. Looking back, knowing what I know now, and seeing the genuine effort he was ready to make after the cheating, I know we could have saved it. I should have fought harder then. I would give anything, absolutely anything, to go back and be with him. If life is only ups and downs, maybe you'll come on back around. Save me from what I've become. Lord knows I can't keep losing sleep dreaming about a life where we work out. A life where we work out. The lumen is